I'm Paula Fowler. I have a few hats that I'm wearing this year. I sit on the finance committee of the BCC PAC. I'm the DPAC Treasurer and president of my PAC at my school. So there's a few things we're going to cover tonight. First off being the gaming grant. For those who don't already know, every PAC gets $20 per student per year. As long as you do two main things. One, submit your application online, preferably between April and June when the system is open for you to submit your application. It's deposited into your game account by September 30th. There's a restriction on those funds. So just be really careful when you've got those funds that you are aware of what you can spend them on. General operating expenses of the PAC is not one of those accepted purposes, but any extracurricular opportunities, if you've got any clubs that you're supporting, any publications like a newsletter your students want to put out, any sports equipment for the school, there's quite a list, and you've got the resource page with the link to the website to find out what all of those specific guidelines are. So the application is the first step in getting that gaming grant. The second step would be making sure that you have also submitted your gaming summary report for the previous fiscal year. And they request that within 90 days of the end of your fiscal year. Fiscal year being if your PAC operating from September to August or from July to June, whatever your end of year is in your PAC, 90 days after that you want to have it in. There's a little bit of leniency, but I would suggest probably not testing the waters on that. So there's a phone number and an email address that you can contact them, as well as a website. Okay, the gaming licenses. So there are 3 main gaming licenses available. So depending on the size of the event or fundraiser that you're planning on running, you'll want to be looking at one of these 3. And then there's a phone number and a website address. And the next page is much more pertinent. This is the gaming license categories. So for example, if you're going to run a you expect to raise $3,000 in ticket sales, you'd be looking at either the Class D for $5,000 or less, or the Class B for $20,000 or less, depending on the ticket price and the prize. Because in Class D, because you're under $5,000, you're $3,000 in revenues, but your ticket price has to be limited to a maximum of $2. So if you want to sell $5 tickets and you expect to sell $3,000 worth of tickets, you're looking for a Class B license. So take this slide, use it to help you decide what you want. One of the perks that's fairly new with licensing is that you can get that gaming license to cover you for all 12 months, as long as you're running very, very similar events. So you can't do a meat draw one month and a raffle draw the next for textbooks or something, books. It has to be a similar concept throughout the whole 12 months. Bank accounts and signing authorities. So you need to have a minimum of 2 bank accounts for your PAC. I'm sure you guys already have this. I don't think we have any new startup PACs in the district, do we? So if you wonder why you have 2 bank accounts, you've walked in and gone, why on earth do we have 2? Very specific reasoning behind that. You've got your general bank account and you've got the gaming bank account. And again, back to that whole gaming money and all the requirements and rules and regulations around it, it needs to stay in its own bank account. And that gaming summary report that you submit at the end of the year shows what the balance was on your last gaming summary report, which was your opening balance of your bank account, all the money that you put in and took out of it throughout the year and for what purpose, and what your end bank balance is. So it's very, very, very clear. You don't muddy the water by mixing the monies around. Signing authorities will be governed by your constitution and bylaws. And the principal must not be a signing authority of the PAC. Pretty clear. I would definitely recommend, as with any good accounting recommendation, always have 2 signers on the account. You don't want to be the person who could be potentially considered to have done something fraudulent because you were the sole signer on the account. You don't want anyone else to be able to walk away with your money that easily either. So always arrange to have 2 signers on your account. Again, go back to your constitution and bylaws. It may designate that one specific person needs to be a signing authority. For example, the treasurer and any one of the other executive. It may say one executive and any other parent in the community. start there at your constitution and bylaws and then decide from there what's going to work best for you guys within the guidelines that you have. Two people not related. Yes. Good fiscal policy. The bank is going to require a copy of the minutes showing who the signing authorities are. And I would suggest, out of experience, call the bank before you show up to change the signing authorities. And I'm going to recommend this because every person at every bank, as an ex-banker, every person at every bank, at every branch, may have a slightly different way of going about making that change to the signing authorities. You may have a relationship with your account manager that has been your account manager for your PAC for 5 or 10 years. Not as common in this day and age because those people tend to change positions much more frequently nowadays. But they may be, yeah, fine, whatever, I know who most of you are, come on, you know. Other banks might say, we need a brand new signing authority card every single year. Every time there's a change to those signing authorities, we need everyone to come back in and sign from scratch again. So call the bank, get clear on what they need from you so that you've got it all in place before you go in, and it takes a lot of frustration out of the process for you. And have your treasurer reconcile those bank accounts monthly. It's nothing worse than getting 3 or 4 months down the road and then going back and checking the statements and going, no, we forgot about this. Just looks better for the purposes of your financial report presentation to everybody if all your numbers are as accurate as possible and as timely as possible. Financial motions. So we saw an awesome role play of how effective a meeting can go. I would love to sit through one of those meetings at some point. Our PAC meetings are never that short. Clear information kiss. Kiss, 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 kiss. Mwah. Keep it simple, stupid. Always keep it simple. And I know that as accountants, we sometimes talk in a language that's a little more confusing because we get a little more technical, but have fun with it and keep it simple. Make sure everybody understands very, very clearly, very concisely, as simply as you can possibly put information forward. Simple. So when you're making financial motions, some examples of some motions that you might need that relate to financial matters in your PAC. The change of signing authorities, so you will need a motion in those minutes, an accepted, voted on, approved motion. Who the signing authorities are going to be. Make sure you use names and not titles. Because when those titles, the president and the treasurer, walk into the bank, they have nothing to go on that this person truly is the president or the treasurer. So make sure that your minutes clearly state the names of the individuals who are going to be the signing authorities. Have one resolution that removes X and Y and Z as signing authorities, and another resolution that's going to add on A, B, and C as signing authorities, as well as what combination of those names that you need, whether it be any two of these 4 people listed, or this one person plus any one of these other 3 people. Really simple, really straightforward. Not a bad idea at the beginning of your year to pass a motion to approve that your treasurer has the authority to move funds between accounts. At our PAC, for example, we have our gaming account, our general account, and 3 GIC accounts. And the GICs, it's money that we've sort of popped in there to earn a little bit better of an interest rate in a cashable term deposit. But we don't want her to have to come back to the PAC and get approval every time she needs to withdraw some of the funds out of that GIC. So we've given her a blanket resolution at the beginning of the year that she has our authority to move funds between the accounts throughout the year as she deems fit. She's not taking any money out of the PAC, she's just moving it around within our bank accounts. So that's fine by us. Approved to spend amounts beyond budget figures. We saw an example of that earlier, where in the Constitution and bylaws, you want to go back and check if those have a similar line to that one, where the PAC could spend X amount of dollars up to the budget figures, and the executive could approve 10% to a maximum of $200 beyond that. So just be clear on when you need to come to your PAC for any kind of approval for going beyond budget figures. Okay, the budget. So when you want to put together a budget, best way to do it is to look at your amounts from previous years. That gives you a really clear indication of sort of what's happened, how things have gone. You'll see some patterns, you'll see some regularities in there that will help you in deciding your new information. So you want to create your current budget based on the history of what you've seen happen in the past, plus your knowledge of what you expect to see or do going forward. So, I mean, we're talking about something that you're probably going to be doing in May, because most of us have to have our budget approved by June so that our September PAC has the budget ready to go and run with it already. In fact, our Constitution, it says what we saw earlier, that you're supposed to have that budget in place before the old one expires. We didn't achieve that this year, but we will next year. Clear information, KISS, again, keep it simple. Don't write a budget 10 pages long. Keep it as simple as you can and put notes to support those figures. One of the downsides to being a volunteer organization is that you don't have the continuity or the amazing level of passover of information from one year to the next. So having a budget, and I'll give you an example on the next page. Just next to gaming, there's a 1. Come down to the budget notes and have a look. Annual direct access gaming grant to PAC, $20 per student. In 2011-12, which is the coming year, we know we have 231 students. So that's how we came up with that number, 4,620. Telling what the actual was for last year is easy. We just go to the checks, we figure out, you know, if someone's either kept really good track for us last year, or we can go and figure out quickly what they spent last year, which category they spent it on. Actuals, we don't have to explain too much, but we want an explanation for why we've budgeted these numbers going forward. What do we know that helped us put these numbers in place? For fundraising, $2,500. See the fundraising budget, so there's going to be, I don't think I attached it. No, I didn't. There's a fictional fundraising budget that would be page 2 of this document, just to lay out, you know, event by event or fundraiser by fundraiser, what they expect their incomes and expenses to be for each of those. And at the end total, or the end of all the revenues is $2,500, and the end of the fundraising expenses is $1,000. Very small PAC, even with 231 students. And then a note that the fundraising includes a hot lunch, a spaghetti supper, you know, so just a clear indication of sort of what's going on. Community grants, that's a pretty, like, why, if you come into a PAC, why did they have this 2 or 3 years ago? It'd be great to have information to understand, go back and look at their budget for the year and see that they anticipated grants from the regional district and local foundations for playground. So it's just little notes at the bottom, because we've done a budget at our PAC for 3 years now, and unfortunately, even though we were part of the budget planning process, we get to the next year and go, oh, where did we come up with that number again? What were we thinking when we put that together? Put some quick notes on it, remind yourself, and don't just keep this with the treasurer. Put this out. This is the document that goes out for approval at the meeting, at the AGM in May or June or whenever you have it, so that everyone can clearly see where those numbers have come from. Reporting. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Again, you have to tell people where the organization stands. There are 2 main documents that you use to do that generally. One is called the balance sheet, and that's like taking a snapshot of the financial state of the PAC in one moment in time. The income statement is a cumulative, here's how much we have earned and spent from this point to this point. So be it from September 1st to November 30th, and you're reviewing that document in December. So balance sheet and income statement are the 2 main documents. You want to do regular reporting with your PAC or executive or whatever your requirement is within your PAC to do your regular reporting. Try not to let it go any longer than quarterly. At the very, very latest, I would strongly encourage that you're doing it monthly. Again, there's so much going on. It's so busy. You want to be as frequent as possible to make sure that everybody catches all of the information on a regular basis. So monthly would be definitely highly recommended. Make sure you file with the government agencies on time if there's anything that you need to file. Most PACs are not registered in some way. Does anybody here have a charitable number registered under the Societies Act with their PAC that you know of?
I think Anmore Elementary has.
Yeah. So there's really, I don't think there's much to do with filing. The gaming summary report, I guess, would be sort of the main one that you want to make sure you have that in on time. The summary report and the application to important pieces. And it's a good idea to invite a member of your parent community to come in and do an internal audit each year. Again, you don't want the scenario where you suddenly find out that Madame Treasurer has been paying her husband's company to be doing something throughout the year. You don't want surprises. And I'm not saying that I don't want you to trust people. We always want to trust people. We always put that out there. But it protects you and it protects the treasurer to have that internal audit done once a year. And it's just somebody sitting down over a few cups of coffee or 2 or 3 or hopefully nothing stronger than that. And just quickly going through, looking at the checks, looking at the invoices, making sure that that things look logical and nothing sort of goes woo, woo, and they want to stop and ask questions about it. Chances are it's going to work fine every year, but you've heard the horror stories in the news. So the 3 reports that you're going to present to your PAC monthly are that exciting balance sheet, the income statement, and the events report. So a sample PAC balance sheet looks like this. Again, this is a snapshot. It's a one moment in time. So I didn't put a date on it, but let's say this is as of September 30th. Your bank account balances, your GIC balances, boom. At the end of day on September 30th, did I say? Those are the balances in the account. These are liabilities. These are monies that we just want to recognize out loud and make sure everyone sees and knows that while, hey, those numbers in our bank account look pretty good, these are committed funds. Now, we doubled up in this case because we not only named a GIC cashable number 5, which is all we really needed to say, and then $5,000, we actually added the playground repairs into our description of that GIC. So we've doubled up. If you have just a bank account with $30,000 in it, then you want to definitely have this line in the liabilities section just to say, of that $30,000, it doesn't mean we can have a party every month and order pizza for everybody and ice cream. Of that $30,000, we have $6,000 put aside for this, $10,000 is committed to this, and $5,000 is committed to this. So you just want to lay out really clearly for people to explain why you have the money in the bank that you have, if it has a specific committed purpose. If you have $30,000 in the bank with no committed purpose, yay for you, go for the pizza and ice cream every month. Why not? You'll get more people at your PAC meetings, right? And then equity. Now, this was easy to prepare because the treasurer was using a piece of software known as QuickBooks or Simply Accounting, or had an accounting background. So the 3 terms in accounting are the assets, the things that you own, the liabilities, the monies that you owe or have committed, and equity is sort of what's left over, for lack of a more technical term. So retained earnings. The retained earnings is the cumulative effect. So if for 5 years in a row, from the very start of your PAC, if your PAC earned at the end of the year, you had a $500 profit, money left over every year for 5 years, your retained earnings would be $2,500. So that's just what that number is. If you see it, you can help somebody else understand what that kind of means. It just means the cumulative effect year after year after year of what's been left over. And the net income line, that is for this current year. So this is previous years, and this is current year. So this PAC has brought in $10,000 so far this year and spent about $6,438. Close enough in expenses. And the income statement. So this is the period by period. Now, in order to fit this onto one page, I did it quarterly after I just told you don't do quarterly statements, do monthly. But when I did it monthly, it was too small for you guys to be able to see it, so I put it into a quarterly. But you would want a page that was a month-by-month record of all the different sources of incoming money and all the different sources of outgoing money. And the star for fundraising is because there's going to be another page. This is what's in it for the parents. All the operating expense stuff and the blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine, do your job as the treasurer, but this is what people care about. The money that I send in that white envelope that says PAC on it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a year when I'm requested to give money for something, where is it going? What's it doing? So here are the different events. List the events, event by event, what money came in and what money went out. If your PAC wants a more detailed report, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but at least on the financial statements for the parents that aren't coming to the PAC meetings, it's nice for them to be able to see, that $20 that I gave to the PAC last month, here's where it was distributed out to. I can see what's happening, I can see what they're doing with my money. All right, so fundraising. Fundraising, not fundraising. Fundraising. When you're getting ready to do an event, the first key piece of information is to plan an outline of your event. Just a great idea. You want to present this to your PAC executive or the membership for approval. Establish if you need a gaming license for what you're going to do. Figure out what you expect to make in sales, if it's raffles or tickets or whatever it may be, what you expect your expenses to be, and number of volunteers. Those are sort of the 4 key pieces of most fundraising events that we tend to have in our schools. Go ahead and present the outline to your PAC executive so they can see that you've put a little bit of thought into this before you just put your hand up at a meeting and say, oh, I want to run a Halloween dance. Well, tell us more about it. Have a few numbers in place just to be able to say, boom, this is the idea that I have. Work really closely with the PAC Treasurer or whoever is running your fundraising events. Make sure they do work with the PAC Treasurer so that they know what to submit to her or him, or what. Your treasurer might be very well trained in accounting and might have a specific check requisition form that needs to be filled in to request reimbursement of funds in a specific way. So just make sure whoever's doing your fundraising events works really closely together with the treasurer to get the right information into them to keep good, clear records. And after the event's over, always come back to the PAC with a quick report on this is what we expected, this is how it actually turned out in the end. And there's a sample fundraising outline. So we've got the name of the dance, who's the coordinator running it, the date and location of it, if there's a teacher sponsor, if it's required by your school, what they expected the sales to be, expected the expenses to be, and each of the different areas that we're going to need volunteers. I mean, one volunteer could do all 4 things, but this group is designated that for the planning committee, they want 3 people to put, minimum to be on the planning committee for this, 8 people to come and do decorations and setup and so on. And this outline is very, very simple, and you can turn around and use this as your final report to the PAC as well, just changing the numbers from expected to the actual figures. All right, donations and tax receipts. So you as a PAC don't have the ability to issue any kind of a tax receipt for a charitable donation, but the school district does. So there's a way to make this happen to the benefit of everyone. Put out a letter and sort of lay out to people that briefly, that there's a way that they can get a tax-deductible donation or tax receipt for a donation that will ultimately benefit the PAC. Although you will never have that money in your hands or in your bank account, you as the PAC will get the benefit of it, and the parent making the donation will get the benefit of the tax receipt. This is a great way to approach those parents who don't have or want to participate in events throughout the year, or don't want to be bothered multiple times throughout the year. They'd rather just do a lump sum and get a tax receipt for it right at the beginning of the year. You might get, checks for $100. You might get checks for $30. Why not? It doesn't take more than some time to write the letter if you don't already have an existing letter to use from last year. And it's compiling the checks together, report off to the district. It's really quite simple. What you do is you ask your parent community to write a check to the school, not to the PAC, but to the school. You collect all of those checks together, give them to the school, who will write one single check to the district, and with that you will put a list together of who has made the donations and how much they were for. As long as they meet the minimum requirement, which I believe is $30, a tax receipt will be issued. The school district will write a check back to the school and issue the tax receipts out to the donors. This money will not come to you. So it's gone from the parents to the school district, back to the school, does not come back to PAC. Record keeping. Keep it simple. You are not rocket scientists. You are not expected to be accountants of great big large corporations. Do the best you can. It's not a bad idea to have at least 2 people counting all monies that are received. Keep backup for every check that gets written. So if you're going to write a check to John Smith for $350 because he bought decorations for the Halloween dance, get the receipts, get a copy of the receipts from him, or something in some sort of detail that's not just a piece of paper that says $350 to John Smith for decorations. I say check requisition form gets submitted for every check that gets written out. So there's just a standard form that has the name of the person it's going to, the day they submitted the information, what the reimbursement is for, and what the amount is. You can decide whether or not you think that 2 people on the executive should approve it before the treasurer writes the check. You can sort of play around a little bit with that, whatever works best for you, unless your constitution and bylaws dictates exactly how you have to handle those situations. It's not a bad idea to take a photocopy of the check that you issued and staple that to that paperwork backup that you have. Again, you're not expected to have high-tech financial record keeping. A binder, a file folder, a box that has the information, and putting together a copy of the check with a copy of the receipts is just kind of smart and easy for someone who wants to come and do an audit later to be able to match things together. Keep your historical information for a minimum of 7 years. The GST rebate. So the PAC, and I don't know, does anyone know if their PAC has ever applied for the GST rebate available to them? So I think it's one of those untapped sources that people are not aware is available to them. So you as the PAC can get back 50% of all the GST or HST that you have had to pay on things if you are a qualifying NPO nonprofit organization. And you are a qualifying nonprofit organization if a minimum of 40% of your revenue came from government funding. So if your income for the year, all the money you took in for the year was $10,000, and $4,100 came from your gaming grant, then you are over the 40%. You are a nonprofit organization qualifying for a 50% rebate of all the GST, HST you have to pay out during the year on anything that you purchase as a PAC. Pretty cool. Here's another source of some money back. Once in a while, it's nice to get money from the government. You can choose to submit this report semi-annually or annually. It's up to you. And you can file for up to 4 years. So I know you're all excited about this, and you're going to go back for the last 4 years, check all your records, and get all that money back. Yay! See, that's what excites me. If you have a large purchase like computers or a playground, discuss it with the school district because they qualify for more than the 50% rebate. So if you do your purchase through them, and they don't want you bothering them for a $200 purchase, obviously, but those really big ticket items that you have, go and talk to them about that because they will get a larger GST rebate. And I don't have a slide for it, but PST. When we went back to PST, we actually didn't go back to PST. We had in BC the social service tax. Then we all converted over to HST. We all felt like we came back to PST, but we actually didn't come back to social service tax. We went from HST to PST. I found the form that you would send in to request that refund, and I started to read the bulletin SST, which is a social service tax bulletin, and I got all excited about the things that we could claim as a PST refund, and then realized that this is only for purchases before 2010, before we switched to HST. So then I found the PST version, and it's a paragraph that says, for more information about PST refunds on PAC-funded purchases, including the formula by which it is calculated, please see Bulletin PST 401, which when you go looking for PST 401, it doesn't exist yet. We're writing it. We'll give you an application form to request the money back, but we actually haven't told you what qualifies yet. So it's coming. Hang tight. You've got 4 years to be able to submit those receipts. So put them aside if you think they might be eligible. I would suggest, if you don't mind just jotting down on your notes, to go back and look at the British Columbia government website for bulletin SST 116. That will give you the PAC purchase refund information before HST. That will just give you some semblance of maybe what might possibly be coming. Because we're hoping that things more or less stay the same. You might find some surprises. If you are really anxious, and I mean you just can't sleep tonight because you need to know if you can get your money back, you can write in for a ruling. You can submit a refund and see if they pay it to you, or just hang tight. Just try to put it aside, write it on a piece of paper, sticky note, follow up in a month, see if PST 401 has been written yet. We're done. All right, so wasn't that exciting? Yeah. Yay! Woo!